And if one day you expect to be king...
I do.
Then might I suggest you start to behave like one?
King Charles' coronation is happening on Saturday. It's the first time in 70 years there's been a coronation in the British royal family. Expect pomp and ceremony in full force. Most people have never witnessed a coronation, and every major news organization in the world will cover the event from start to finish, including the CBC. World leaders will gather to witness it. There will be horses, there will be carriages, there will be pudding. This is, in fact, history. But will people watch? One poll released last week by Angus Reid suggests more than 40% of Canadians don't care about the coronation. And that's the language. I don't care. They say they won't read about it, they won't watch it. And that's kind of different than past royal events. I mean, think about it. Royal weddings, jubilees.
This is the first time that the full Cambridge clan, if you like, have been up there like this.
Even the Queen's funeral. People watched, people cared.
And it's very sad, and I'm very touched. And I don't know if I'll ever get over it.
So, what makes this one different? Well, maybe it's him. According to that Angus Reid poll, less than a third of Canadians have a favorable view of Charles. And even fewer say they like his wife, Camilla, only 18%. And even worse, most Canadians oppose recognizing Charles as king. They don't want him on our money or to swear oaths to him or sing God Save the King at ceremonies. So what is it about Charles that Canadians find unfavorable? Well, there's this.
People are still thinking about Diana, and it's a shadow that looms large.
I think Charles, unfortunately, has been unpopular most of his life. He doesn't have the charisma that some of the other royals do. And then what little popularity he did have, even in his younger years, was sullied quite a bit by his relationship with Diana.
Princess Diana, Charles's first wife, she was beloved. Check out how Canadians reacted to meeting her on a royal visit in 1983.
Oh, it was just a thrill. I asked her how William was, and she said he's just fine. She came right over and shook my hand. I just couldn't believe it.
Diana was so wildly loved around the world. She had that star quality. She had that vulnerability. She had that thing that we associate with modern celebrities.
Charles and Diana met in the late 1970s, and they were married in 1981.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
But as you probably know, the marriage wasn't exactly the fairy tale it was set up to be.
The situation this time, for the first time, certainly in their marriages, it is serious.
And what does serious mean? I mean, people are even talking constitutional crisis. I assume they can't be divorced, or is divorce even a possibility?
It's pretty serious when a husband's not speaking to his wife, which is the case at the moment.
The two separated in 1992, and public perception of Charles only got worse from there.
For things to go south with Diana the way they did, with Tampon-gate, with the cheating.
In 1993, public proof of Charles's affair came out, known as Tampon-gate. And if you want to know exactly what that means, then you can go look it up, but I'm warning you, it's pretty cringy.
Royal shocker, the Charles and Camilla love tape.
For once, something that's billed as a shocker is. If the words really do belong to Charles and Camilla, it is a Charles few could have imagined. He tells her he needs her several times a week, and he says he'd like to live inside her trousers.
The scandal was a leaked phone call between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. She and Charles had dated in the 1970s, but they both married other people and then had an affair. The British press had a field day. The public ate up all of those private details.
He's heir to the throne, but is Prince Charles fit for the job? That's the latest royal question being hotly debated in Britain. He will be king, if today's papers are to be believed, but behind the headlines is serious criticism of the prince's sex life.
The two divorced in 1996, and Charles eventually married Camilla, but it's been hard for her to win over the public.
When you see Charles and Camilla together, it is very clear that they are very happy with one another. But there is also the lingering sense that she was the third person, or there was the feeling that she was the third person in the marriage with Charles and Diana.
When you think about it, it's been 30 years since Charles and Camilla's affair became public, and they've been married for almost 20. A lot of other royal scandals have come and gone, but this one sticks. And it could be because of the tragedy that followed. As you know, Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris in 1997. She was only 36 years old, and there was an outpouring of grief even here in Canada.
This lady who had everything, who was a princess, still had time for the lowest and the poorest.
You know, I looked at the headline in the paper and fell apart. I spent the whole day in tears.
I was watching the funeral this morning as well, and she's very dear, I think, to all of us, even here in Canada.
Diana was so iconic, and she died so young. And to a lot of the world, Diana will always be that young woman, that effervescent woman who was on the verge of creating her own path in life.
As tragic as it was, Diana's death cemented her place in history and in pop culture.
Who are you referring to?
Camilla.
Why would I care about her?
Because I care about her! It's the real one, and the one they take pictures of.
In many ways, there's been a resurgence in popular culture about Diana. It's bringing the image of Diana, the idea of who she was and what she did to a new generation who may not have even been alive 30 years ago, but are starting to hear and see more about her.
Think about the documentaries, the TV shows, the movies, even a musical in the past few years alone about Diana and the royal family. And they have a big impact on public perception.
We've seen a lot of discussion and debate around the accuracy and challenges to what is portrayed in something like The Crown, not being true to what happened, but that still ends up being what someone sees and connects with. So then it becomes the question of, how far do people believe that that is what really happened, or are they seeing it as fiction?
There's something too about the age Diana was when she died.
She was only in her mid-30s, and she was roughly the same age as Marilyn Monroe, of many rock and pop stars who died young. There are all these people who died young who, for some reason, we become very, very attached to, and I think we think about what they could have been. We think about how old we were when we were that same age, and we get so attached. I mean, Marilyn Monroe is never going to go away in the public imagination, and I think Diana is exactly the same way.
This image of Diana is going to stay in the public's mind, but her story is inextricable from the story of Charles and Camilla. Her story is their story too.
I find it interesting, the connection that there is between popular culture and then what people think and believe when it comes to the monarchy, because the Diana or the Camilla or the Charles that they're connecting with may be the person more so that they see on the Crown than the one who would be in the headlines.
And that's just it. Between pop culture and the celebrity, her children in the spotlight, Diana's memory looms large. And it could mean Charles, no matter what he does or how he rules, will always have a hard time ever gaining public affection as long as Diana has it, even when he becomes king.